Welcome to Rival Stage Gaming. My name is Nick, and I have another interview here today. And it is a fantastic interview because I'm here with my good friend, Brett Hillman. Brett, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, Nick. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. My only issue is I haven't seen you since I believe it was your wedding. It has been entirely too long, so I'm just super happy to be doing this.
Been a long time. You stole my thunder. I was gonna mention you were one of the best men at my wedding. It's your turn to get out of my head now.
Oh, geez. Okay, yeah, yeah. I've known you for way too long, and I just talking about the game, especially what we were talking about today, and the history that we've had through this game playing it. I've been really looking forward to making this video.
Yeah, been looking forward to it ever since we started talking about the deck.
So before we get into it, because obviously we're going to be talking about it for a little bit, Brett, I feel like a lot of newer Universus players may not know you. If you're an old UFS player, like myself or many of the other people who are our age, they'll recognize you and remember you. But you yourself, Brett, let's kind of get into it. When did you start playing UFS or Universus?
Yeah, so the game came out in 2006. I started playing the game in 2006, back when the Penny Arcade message board started lighting up with like advertisements for the demo decks, how they were going to be the first launch. I was probably one of the first emails requesting the demo decks to be sent over to me. So I'm pretty much a day one, day zero player.
You know, if you've been playing for that long, there's obviously a lot of things that kind of keep you engaged with the game and keep you moving along. And we were talking a little bit before we started filming, and you actually said you're not a very big fan of the fighting game licenses, if a fan at all. So what kind of actually keeps you around for like UFS or Universes these days in terms of gameplay?
Yeah, so my single most favorite thing about this game is a lot of other games, the skill expression will come out in the play, like the competitive aspect, finding the edge against the opponent. I feel like Universes has a lot of skill expression when it comes into actually building the deck. So many other games will just have you play four of this, four of this, four of this. Here's all your stuff. It's stock standard. Figure out how to get a leg up on the opponent in the gameplay. Universes, no two decks are alike, right? No two deck builders are exactly alike, but you can always kind of see the DNA of a deck builder in any one specific deck. Like you can look at a Phil Birch deck and be like, yeah, that's pretty much a Phil Birch deck. Or you can look at a Tim Keefe deck or a Kevin Broberg deck, and you can see the DNA of that player in that deck. So that expression is what keeps me really interested in this game, especially as a deck builder.
And like, as just to kind of pair what you were saying there, everything that you can do, it's so unique, is where everybody does have a unique kind of deck building style. I've learned so much, as I'm not a very good deck builder, I'll be the first one to admit it, but I've learned so much to become a competent to at least like halfway good deck building, because I've learned things from like Garrett, because I've learned things from you, because I've learned things from Broberg, from Keith, from Jeremy, from all these random people throughout the time, and they just go, oh, we do this, we do that, or there's more silver bullets, or there's more consistency of this, or build it from this direction as opposed to doing it attacks first, or So that's something I definitely can echo with you on that sentiment. That being said, building decks has been a lot of fun. Since we've kind of relaunched into the My Hero era of the game, what kind of characters have been standing out to you? It's kind of been a lot of fun for you to play recently.
Anything that lets me kind of be off the wall in my approach to the game. It's really easy to just draw cards, pump stats. So when you can find something that makes like an engine where you just do something that not a lot of other decks do, that kind of just gets the light bulb going. My favorite deck right now to play is actually Jester 1. I've probably put together a dozen different Jester decks in the last year, all kind of iterating around the same thing. But she's actually very scary once you start kind of tuning her to where you want her to be.
Yeah, you've shown me the deck list for what you have going on, and it's like a fever dream. It's something I never would have imagined, but it seems so effective at the same time, which is and it is very off the wall, like you said. But that in mind here, let's kind of go back a little bit further now. You've been playing since 2006 here. And so I kind of want to pick your brain a little bit here. What have been some of your favorite like decks or favorite deck that you've played of all time? You know, going all the way back to the early days.
So my favorite deck of all time that I've ever played was Water Ukio. He was a seven-hand size character who basically got to see 13 cards on his kill turn.
Yep.
And then he also had Enhance, discard a card, your opponent discards a card. So whenever you needed to refill, you also just got to nuke the opponent's hand down to 0. He was viable across all three of his symbols, Void, Evil, and Water, and they all did different things, which is what made him so sweet. Water decks got to do little like recursive loops. Void decks just ripped your hand apart and hit you with like discard matter themes. And then Evil was just like a value good stuff deck, just playing cards that were better than every other card in the format. And he got to see more of them because, again, he saw 13 cards whenever he really wanted to.
Yeah, Ukio is pretty nuts. What my favorite deck of yours that you've ever built is the deck that I played at, I believe it was Worlds. It was the Mike Lowell deck, Canadian champion, I believe, or he was U.S. champion or something like that. But we built a Piercing Howl deck built around Mike and his character, and that's like the best I've ever done at a major tournament was with that deck. And I remember you just like piecing it all together like so quickly. And like at your kitchen table, like I remember like going down and going like, oh, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do this, we'll do that, and then it's just like click, it all fell into place like so quick, so fast, and so interesting. So that's like one of my favorite decks you've ever built, but that's only because I got to pilot it and do a decent job of playing it.
I love building decks for other players because part of that is the collaboration. Obviously, what I would play probably wouldn't work for you and vice versa. So getting to like talk and collaborate and empathize and get to know the player is another thing I love about this game, because putting decks together for another person and then letting that person make it their own, that's part of what makes this community stick together for so long. I've built like decks for Sam Waller, the K-Dash deck that took over the format for a bit. I built a deck for Thomas Gordon, the Infinite Eva Technical Sphere Loop deck that went viral for a minute. Being able to just kind of puppet master all of that in the background, live vicariously through those other players, especially since I don't get to travel a lot, that really means a lot for me.
Yeah, and honestly, like you've earned it as like your rightful place as like as a great deck builder, you know, in the game, for many different reasons. I think it's time we can go ahead and start talking about him. His name is Mark Tyner, and I think I said months ago with a lot of people when he first came out that he was going to be a problem, and that eventually people would be using this character to play old UFS sometimes with with what's printed on him and the kind of abilities and things you can do. And as things have changed here, obviously the banning of equipment heist and unyielding destruction that just recently happened now has shifted the whole landscape of the game at the top level here. And I've talked with a couple people. I know you've said you talked with a couple people here, and the about this deck, and it's really kind of shaping up here. It's no secret anymore to anybody, I don't think, but it's just basically about like what's the most effective build that you're going to see, and I truly think that you and I have put it together.
Yeah, this deck I think is really scary. Equipment heist and unyielding destruction were kind of like training wheels for the character, handed you a lot of really easy wins, but with the recent bans, he just had to get a whole lot meaner. You had to just basically make the opponent's life a whole lot more miserable, and I think we found that with this deck and the discussions and the tunings that we've had for it. So let's get into it. Obviously, first we're going to want to start with the character himself, Mark Tyner. He's got that little token text at the bottom after the rival fails a control check. Gain 1 life. A lot of people tend to not factor that in, but that's possibly 4 to 5 life over the course of a game. That's an entire attack that he just gets to ignore. His continuous ability makes it so you can't seal him, so popular answers to other characters like Megalomania just do not work on him. His top continuous ability, allowing him to have multiple copies of unique foundations, is the second most broken thing about him. He gets to double up on some very oppressive effects. Some people have found some of them, some other haven't. We're kind of working to maximize the oppression with that ability there. But the one ability that kind of caused everyone to pause and scratch their heads is the control check manipulation ability. -2 to a control check that can end a turn is actually a format breaking ability. And the fact that he gets that and he can also use it to boost his own control checks means his deck is super consistent, and then the opponent's aggressive turns are just not consistent anymore. So characters that would want to look to turn 2 or 3 him are suddenly getting dragged into turn 4 or turn 5, and that's where he's already put a vice grip on the game. So we're looking to maximize not only that check boost bonus that he gets, but also the check minus bonus that he gets. And the way we ended up maximizing that check boost bonus is by playing all of the 4 check attacks. There is not a single 3 check attack in the deck right now. So since you're only playing 4s and 5s in the decks, Tyner's boost puts those up to 6s and 7s. So you know that you are always going to be checking well in the deck. And from there, you're just playing enormous stats. You're playing really good utility. We've got Colossal Confrontation in the deck as a 2 of. It tutors, it ruins 3, it's got Breaker. It really just lets you put together that final kill turn. He's not going to OTK you, but he will carve your life total in half and then look to finish you off in the next 2 or 3 turns after that, after he puts you on the back foot. Next up, we've got Female Titan attacks. It draws a card. Readying a backup is also an incredibly powerful synergy in this deck. There are some very abusive things you can do by simply readying a backup. We'll get to that once we get into the backups. Jaw Titan attacks. It's simply the best low block that you have while still checking a 4, and a 6 low 6 is nothing to sneeze at. 2 health on top of the health that he gains. Again, you can no-sell a couple of attacks off of that. And then there are some characters that still want to kind of gain health incidentally in the format, so getting to shut off like a Ymir, who might come back into the format now that Unyielding Destruction is banned. That's just some added bonus utility on top of it. Past that, we have 3 copies of Smiling Titan attacks. This is a pet card for me, but I really think it shines within the deck. It eats a momentum, so it can put the opponent off of a Roman Cancel activation. So your 6 is now a 3, it's no longer that. It can keep people off their momentum. And then the fact that the opponent has to walk their first attack for the turn into Smiling a Titan means that they're effectively playing on Breaker 1 during an attack string. And then with Tyner's control check manipulation on top of that, it's again just another piece of misery that you're stacking up on top of the opponent for them to try and force their way through. We are playing 3 unexpected outcomes. This is just part of one of the angles that Tyner approaches the game with. Part of what makes him so mean is that he has multiple angles of approach depending on what kind of game the opponent is playing. He has a lot of hand rip, and unexpected outcomes just lets you, 1, get their best attack out of their hand, send it back at them, but it also just lets you double up when you're starting to play things like Cynthia Utrom and your backups, or your monster zeros out of your foundations. Characters who would try to turtle up on like 4 or 5 foundations and then play defense with 5 cards in hand, they're suddenly looking at 1 card in hand off of the first attack, and they have to ask themselves whether they want to block the unexpected outcomes at 10 speed, which you can just have their block. They're not blocking on a 12 or whatever, or they're just going to die. Really good card. And then finally, for a little bit of spice, we are playing 2 copies of Titan Swarm. This is just a really big dumb echo attack that is relatively easy to play off the echo. You're not probably going to be crafting a game state to where you're going to be your go-to finisher, but when you need to like turn on a dime, like pivot, you need to kill them now. Colossal Confrontation into Titan Swarm is 26 damage just off of the echo, and the opponents aren't going to be able to deal with that very efficiently. Getting into the assets here, we are playing 2 copies of Yeetus Deletus. It is Foundation Destruction, it is anti-asset, it is anti-backups under 4 difficulty, and it also gives -3 difficulty and +3 damage when you use its form ability. This just lets you overextend or get a bigger string in earlier in the game. kind of hard to play 2 attacks on turn 3 in this deck. If the opponent is interacting with you, Yeetus makes it a whole lot more comfortable to do that and still have resources to play defense on the back end. We're playing 1 team Dr. Ichigaki. It is just catch all, whatever you manage to get through, I'm going to say no to it. And then we're playing 2 copies of Massive Mutant Machine. We don't care that Equipment Heist got banned. We genuinely don't. Tyner just plays this on a 5 and moves on with his life. And when you're only checking 4s and 5s, he's going to turn 1 card sideways to put +5/+5 into play. You just don't care.
That's gross. That is like just the idea that he could take a look at the 7 of Massive Mutant Machine and just be like, yeah, it's whatever. It's just another card.
Yeah, shrugs it off. The other character now has to consider it. There are some characters who will still cheat it into play, Pumatsul, Armin, etc. But he just gets to play it for free, and just shrugs off the 7 diff. It has deflect on it. Again, just save yourself some life, decent defensive piece. Where this deck gets really mean is we are playing 2 copies of Decay Awakened. You love infiltrating. If you want to go back into UVS Ultra for the retro and look up infiltrating, I love infiltrating. I love start over. I love resetting the board. This hits all foundations, all assets in play. So if the opponent has somehow managed to get out in front of you, you wipe the board, and then you get to sit on your unique backups that are in your stage to hack their checks. So the opponent can build their 4, cool, pass, get back to you, you reset your foundations. You're still good to play defense. You still have your control check manipulation on board, so the opponent probably isn't going to be able to get at you with the rebuild that they have on that turn. So you just start the vice grip process all over again. We have 4 backups into the deck, 2 copies of each. We are playing Cynthia Utrom, E commit. The opponent discards a card from their hand. Hand rip, I don't care about the bottom ability. It is irrelevant to the game plan. I believe it's remove the top 2 cards when she gets attacked. You can ready that with female Titan attacks.
Yeah.
That's absurd. It's not once per turn, so you can go Colossal Confrontation, tutor female Titan attacks. That's 2 cards out of their hand, and you're sending 17, plus whatever monster zeros you might have in your staging area for extra damage. It's so easy to get the opponent to 0 cards in hand when you're sending all these fatties at them. It's another way for him to just remove avenues of interaction that the opponent might be sitting on. Do they burn their Filled with Doubt now, or do they hold it in their hand to shield their better block from Cynthia? Do they pitch the Filled with Doubt? Like, it's a really difficult position to be in. The other really good backup to ready with female Titan attacks is Yelena. Just being able to build 2 face downs in a deck that wants to generate foundation advantage over the opponent is very solid. It's also a cheap backup to get into play for control check manipulation with Tyner. Just very solid, very cheap, does what you want the deck to do.
Before we get ahead of ourselves here, we get into the foundations, I just want to say that this is like the first time I've ever seen a deck like actively, positively use Cynthia Ultram in a deck, because the hand rip ability is really good, but everything else, the 5 diff, it's a little rough, and or the game plan usually doesn't lean into it. But this is the first time where I'm like, oh, the card's really good, actually. So
yeah, and so many other decks, she's a 5 difficulty do nothing. So if you're trying to open your turn with her and you check a 3, you're like, crap, I'm already deeply in the hole. This card does not do anything defensively on my opponent's turn. Tyner just shrugs it off, exactly like Massive Mutant Machine. He just gets to turn one thing sideways and it's in play, and then he hacks your checks so you can't kill him, and then he gets to untap with an active Ultron. It's brutal. Yeah. It's really brutal. So much of this game is like, my cards need to do something now, elsewise my opponent is just going to ignore it. Tyner buys you that 0.5 of a turn for your do nothing cards to turn on. Because if you're playing a Massive Mutant Machine naturally, fairly, you're probably committing 2 to 3 cards for it. And the opponent goes, thanks, that card doesn't stop me from killing you. And then they start sending their Walk the Dogs that you just turned into 4 difficulty cards for them. So getting into the foundations here, the big puzzle with Tyner is obviously his ability to let you have 2 copies of uniques in play. So the foundation base is just designed about maximizing that ability as much as possible. And so we just decided to get really, really, really nasty with it and play as much foundation destruction as possible without like compromising the integrity of the deck. So we've got 4 King of Illyria in the deck. This just puts a card back to the opponent's hand, gives you a high block on demand. There are ways with like our 4 copies of League Invitation where you can just target commit something and put it back in their hand. Thanks for the free debuild. We are going to be playing 4 copies of Warped Pleasure. This is a sleeper card from Yu Yu Hakusho Dark Tournament. If the opponent has the audacity to get up to over 6 foundations to try and force his way or her way through a Mark Tyner control check, your 2 copies of Warped Pleasure say, hey, we're down to 6 foundations, and then your copies of King of Illyria say, hey, you're down to 4 foundations. So we're just bootlegging our own unyielding destruction here. We're assembling it in a box, in a cave with a box of scraps, you know? But we're the only deck that gets to do that. Continuing to maximize the abusiveness of the unique rule here, we have 3 copies of Moment of Normalcy. This card is already obnoxious enough to deal with when you have 1 copy. Now they have 2, so again, you're just going to have to figure out a way to overextend past that. And when you're walking into Smiling Titan, when you're walking into control check manipulation, you figured that out. Now deal with my 2 Moment of Normalcy. It's just not going to happen. I mentioned this card earlier, but we are going to be playing 4 copies of Monster Zero. This is just the other angle of attack. Not only are we control check manipulating, we're also just ripping their hand apart. There was an old Tim Keefe special. I don't know if you remember Railgun Athena, where he would just use a Psycho Medley to put a Silent Assassin into play multiple times a turn. And that card said the opponent removes a random card in their hand from the game. Pretty much the same thing, in my opinion, where you're just doubling up on effects that you're not supposed to have multiple copies of in play at the same time. Rip their hand apart, get +3 damage, kill them. It's really nasty. Some people will play 3, we play 4. We're resetting the board, we're sacking foundations to our Warped Pleasures. So sometimes 3 means you'll be stuck on 1 copy, so you want to be able to double up on these abusive effects as quickly as possible again. Next up, we've got a couple copies of Togoro's Dominance. I currently have 2 of them in play. They answer assets, which is the big thing. They're not nearly as good as like a King of Illyria or a like even a Yeetus Deletus when it comes to control foundation destruction, because the opponent does get to use that ability. But it's a good rattlesnake card. Like if you double up on it, or you even have 1 of them in play, the fact that it can answer a cape, it can answer a military airship, just keep it off the board while you drag the game further and further in. You're always going to probably at least want to see 1 of them, and then the game just gets gravy if you've got 2 of them after that. We're playing 2 copies of House of Cards. It's a 1 difficulty unique foundation. It's largely there to commit to Tyner for control check manipulation, but it also adds arrival momentum to the top of your deck. So if they've got a Roman cancel token, you can just fizzle it out of their momentum so they don't get to use it. And if they've got a bad check on top of their discard pile, they're now checking a 1 if they have a 3 when you really need to get something in there. Versatile, not super strong. You still want a couple copies of it, so we're only going to play 2. And then one of the cards you queued me in on here is going to be the 3 copies of Forced Quirk Activation. It bursts up momentum for you, so you can play your Echoed Titan Swarm. But it's also just point at this card because they couldn't word their cards appropriately back in the day. Yeah. Point at this card and it dies. Yeah. Because if your foundation is committed and they can't play the enhance, it just dies. So again, contributing to the foundation destruction aspect. The fact that you can pick what dies if the opportunity presents itself. That's why we're playing 3 of it instead, and only 2 Togoro's Dominance. It's just a nastier card. You get a finer control over the effect. We're playing 2 incompatible quirks. It's speed manipulation, not nearly as good as Moment of Normalcy, but it also just It's Shinobi Tradition, if you remember that card from
Yep.
back in the day. It's
Oh yeah.
it's not exactly Shinobi Tradition, but it is the poor man's version of it. This card is actually busted, and I'm surprised it hasn't won like a billion events. I've extended like so many kill strings with this card just by eating my board, playing like 6 cards when an average turn would have only been like 4, and it's all thanks to this card. If the opponent somehow figures out how to keep you off your wall of uniques, this is also just 2 uniques for Tyner manipulation. So it gets you online immediately. You definitely want to be playing this. Getting away from the unique foundations here. We are going to play 4 copies of Fateful Decision. You could play Incubating in this slot. I don't like that. We discussed this when we were talking about the deck. The games are going to go really long. Plan B is something that people are going to consider, so helping them out by removing cards from the game. You might cycle yourself out in like a really, really long game. This slot is dedicated towards some form of speed manipulation. Fateful Decision is just the best in class other than Incubating. It's -2 speed, but more importantly, it is Breaker 1. So on top of Tyner, manipulating control checks, you now have this little bit of extra breaker just to edge their foundations closer and closer to being turned right or turned left instead of being turned up and being able to use their abilities. We've got League Invitation as well. You can get away with being really greedy with your 3s in this deck. Again, it's 4s and 5s deck. You can go Monster 0 League Invitation, which a lot of other decks aren't capable of doing. It's targeted committal. No one is going to pass that 7 if they know what they're doing. They're just going to say, fine, you get to eat something with King of Illyria. Fine, you get to turn off my moment of normalcy. They just can't. They cannot commit to for this, because then that just feeds right into Tyner's game plan. It's just really gross. We've got 4 copies of Settling Old Debts as well. The deck does lack a lot of card economy, which is fine considering that it's designed to go really, really long game. You've got this. You've got your your female Titan attacks to draw cards. That's generally enough to help smooth everything out. Some people would possibly be concerned with how many extra copies of uniques we're playing. So if you draw like 3 King of Illyrias and you don't have a way of like smoothing out your turn, this can possibly do that for you. Get them up to 6 and just start filtering out. And then finally, we've got our Deku tech. We're playing 3 copies of Not Now I'm Gaming. Flip, check a 7, just put the opponent's attack back in their hand. The Deku is never going to be able to tap out against this deck to one-shot you with a Sabotage or a Phantom Threat, because you're always going to have your Not Now I'm Gaming. That's just how we roll. We're always running hotter than the sun when we're playing this deck. I mean, we're checking 6 and 7s the entire time. But it answers the Deku one-shot. It will literally save your bacon against someone running hotter than you are running. Just hack it, put it back in their hand, hack it again. Congratulations, you just tapped your 8 foundations to play 1 attack twice. That's fine with me. And that's pretty much the deck. You just want to be as mean as possible, as manipulative as possible, drag the game way past where most of the decks are comfortable playing at. A lot of the decks want to get to like turn 5 at the most. This deck will put you to turn 10 and just be happy to be there.
Yeah, I just kind of looking it over. I noticed you didn't have anything listed in the sideboard here, but are there any cards that you would recommend that people can start filling out the sideboard with immediately? I personally would add, like, in the side, there's immediately like 2 more copies of like Ichigaki there. For me personally.
Yeah. The side deck would definitely be dedicated towards rounding out either problem matchups or teching for things you're not teching for in the main. I wouldn't hate having a couple of Ichigakis in the sideboard for like the Rodan matches, which are just going to go really long. Being able to shut off a Nonagon at any one point in time is going to be very useful. You'll also probably want to run maybe just a couple extra pieces of like anti-hyper aggro. Mikasa can still just light you up if she gets the hotter than the god draw. So being able to bring in a couple extra breaker, maybe something that gives them +1 difficulty to all their cards for the turn. I just there are options to help fill out those hyper aggressive matchups. A couple copies of Filled with Doubt never hurt anyone, just as kind of a catch-all. And from there, it would largely just be about fixing your ratios. Me, myself, my sideboard is always for, I never build the deck right for the tournament. So my sideboard is for all the things that I should have in the main board for the tournament. I just didn't have time to figure it out. So I'm figuring it out in real time. So I hold the L in the first game, fix my deck for the second game, and then we're playing the real deck.
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, for me, so the two cards we were talking about it too, like kind of ways to find kind of foil the deck. And the first one that I brought up was Eyes of the Tiger, which is just an enhance. It's a foundation enhance remove. Control checks can't be modified, but this deck has ways to deal with that very easily with things like League Invitation, just being able to target it and say, hey, you know what, it's not going to be ready when you're going to need it most. And then the other one was Repeated 100% Smash. That's just something that you would ideally Filled with Doubt.
Filled with Doubt, the opponent has to get it to 10, so you can just Moment of Normalcy. They pump it to 10, you moment it's back down to 6. You're like, okay, cool, you got another 4. I've got my second Moment of Normalcy over here. You want to keep going? So really the only deck that is currently playing Repeated 100% is Rodan right now anyways. I imagine there might be some Void Deku decks that show up at Worlds that might run that card out as like Fair Deku. But Midoriya is obviously still going to be on like the Phantom Threat one-shot kill you, and I think this deck has legs for days against that deck.
Let's get off the plane here. Let's go to the pilot at Worlds here. Do you have any predictions on who's going to take it down this year for the big event? I know I've got some favorites. I've got community friends and everything I would choose and so forth. But I want to hear from you. Do you got anybody that you can think of that you think is going to take down Worlds this year?
Never bet against Kevin Broberg. That dude can put together a win with a wet paper bag.
Yeah.
And it's always funny watching him like right before a tournament. You'll see the photos floating around on social media. Kevin Broberg picking up last minute cards, and then like 19 hours later, Kevin Broberg, world champion again. You're like, how does he do it? But this has been a really awesome year for the competitive scene. Back in the day, back when we were, like cutting edge competitive players, you had like the same 4 people winning tournaments. So you had your Garretts, your Kevins, your Tims, your Jeremys, just guys that you like. If there were 60 other players in the room and then Atlanta decided to show up, you're like, oh, there's a third of your top 8, right? Like
there.
it's just that like. So seeing these teams pop up, like Response on Play and all of the other super teams, I'm sorry, I don't know your names. Response on Play is the one that's stuck in my head right now. Seeing them pop up and seeing them like go at it, like actually chase competitive success and succeed has been really awesome. If, gun to my head, I had to pick someone, I'm going to pick Kevin Broberg every single day. That guy's my boy. But I would not be surprised if it's a completely new world champion this year. In fact, I'm rooting for it.
Yeah. To be just a contrarian here, because I also follow that camp of I almost would never bet against Broberg on anything, because that man is too smart. He's too good at this game. But if I had to, since you got Kevin and he's off the table now here for me, I want to have 2 picks here, but I'm going to go with one, and I'm going to go with my boy Phil Birch. I think after his performance at the Atlanta Regional and playing one of the best games of Universes like ever played in history, like including Legacy and Retro and everything, that was legitimately one of the best games I've ever seen. I think he's got a little bit of a spark, a little bit of momentum, and if he's on it, he can take it down. So that would be my pick for sure.
100% agree. When Birch decides to like take it seriously, when it's not just like a drinking vacation for him, when he actually shows up and he takes it seriously, I'm scared. Like
Yeah.
Birch is one of the few people that I am legitimately scared of in this game, and you can tell when he's there to take lives. There's a very different atmosphere around him. I mean, he's on multiple assets. He's got two champion characters to his name. When he shows up, and he's very good at playing the decks he chooses to play. Some of the things he manages to pull off are almost miraculous, but he knows what he's doing because he's Phil Birch. He's played the games, he's got the experience under his belt.
Yeah, he is absolutely fantastic player, and like you said, when he's taking it seriously, you can kind of almost feel like an aura coming off of him because of just like he's commanding so much at the table, and he's just like so dedicated. I've always taken it to akin to when Phil, and specifically Phil, and I don't know why because there's no connection to this whatsoever, but it's always Piccolo taking off the weighted clothing and throwing it down to the ground, and it like creates huge craters and stuff, and he's like, yeah, I've been like holding back this entire time. That's what it always reminds me of.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta ore farm every once in a while, right? You gotta show up to the tournament and remind people of who you are, unless they forget your name, because once people forget your name, that's when you're truly dead.
That's true. That is true. All right, well, honestly, I think we covered a lot today about this Mark Tyner deck. I think we covered a lot going into Worlds and making some fun predictions, and this has been great. I just want to say thank you very much, dude, for coming by, making my evening, and just because we haven't talked about anything, about more than this Universus deck in forever now. We just looked at our Discord, like when the last time we talked on Discord, and it was the first message we ever sent on Discord 4 years ago. So it's like the
4 years
anniversary
ago.
of that. It is absurd. So I just want to thank you for being here. That being said, it's customary. The floor is yours. Feel free, speak your mind.
Yeah, find me on Facebook anywhere Rick Jeffries isn't. I'm always happy to talk decks, tinker with you. Rising tide lifts all boats, right? If you need to pick my brain, I will certainly get something from you in return, even if you don't know I'm taking it from you. Always happy to talk, always happy to establish a relationship. Just seek me out. I will make time for you. That's what I do in this game these days. I'm here for the community.
Awesome. And yeah, with that being said, if you stuck around, thank you everybody for watching. Remember, please like and subscribe. That really helps us out and pushes us forward to do more content, do all sorts of different things like these interviews. So yeah, we appreciate it, everybody. And yeah, just thank you for watching. This has been Rival Stage Gaming. Thank you.
Good night, guys.